Jesus for the cleansing power. Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in His grace this hour? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
First place we're going to go is Matthew. Well, let me tell you what we're going to do. Well, first we're going to go to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. We're going to talk about Lazarus, Mary, Martha, and Jesus. Lazarus, Mary, Martha, and Jesus. And the first place we'll go is Matthew chapter 10. That's where we'll start, verse number 38. It does say Matthew this then? Oh, boy. Luke chapter 10, verse number 38. Luke chapter 10, verse number 38. That's where we'll start. Luke 10 and verse 38. You can go ahead and mark in your books if you need to. We're going to go next to John chapter 11, beginning in verse 1. And then next we'll probably just look at John chapter 12, beginning at verse 1, and Matthew 26. We'll glean from Matthew's version of these events. So we'll start off in Luke chapter 10 and verse 38. I love these verses. What'd you say, Beverly? I'm sorry. Huh? Yes, I'm sorry. Chapter 10. Luke chapter 10, begin verse 38. I love these events. We love to study about Mary and Martha and Lazarus. It just, I don't know how to explain what that does to us. But I think we'll see as we go along. I may get a little carried away or too excited for you, so you'll have to make me move along. Maybe if I get hung up because I want to go all the way through. Jesus enjoyed the hospitality that Lazarus and Mary and Martha provided him in their home. They provided hospitality, they provided food, they provided friendship, and Jesus loved them just like He, as individuals, just like He loves who? Us, as individuals. And you'll be able to see the different personalities as we go through here. I won't say who reminds me of Martha a lot, but as we go along, you may be able to pick out some Marthas, which there's nothing wrong with. And so Jesus enjoyed this home. He enjoyed being with them. Bethany was about 2 miles from Jerusalem. It's located on the southeast slope of Mount Olivet. And boy, so many famous things took place in this area. If you remember this is going to be the last miracle of Jesus before He goes to Jerusalem and the triumphal entry, and then He goes to the cross. So this is the last recorded miracle in John. It's also where in this area where Judas betrayed Jesus. It's also where Jesus ascended into heaven, Mount Olivet. And then it was the location for the triumphal entry. He left their home and He rides into Jerusalem on what? A donkey. And they're throwing palms in the road and flowers and yelling, Hosanna in the highest. And it is not but about a day later that they're hollering, crucify Him. Crucify Him. Some of these same people. So there are two things that we know. We know that when we look at this, the different personalities, we're going to see Martha. Martha's practical. Martha is a good hostess. Martha's concerned about the things of the home. She's concerned about serving and taking care. She's eager to hear Jesus, and she's listening, but she's trying to take care of the business. And we see that every day in our homes. Mary's alert. She's eager to hear Jesus. She's responsive to spiritual things. It draws her. And there's two things that we know that are certain. And that Jesus liked to come here in this home. And Jesus loved them as an individual. Now, Luke chapter 10, verse 38 and 39. Now, as they were traveling along, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister called Mary, who was seated at the Lord's feet, listening to his word. So here we see this beautiful friendship they had. Martha seems to me, I grew up in a large family. Many kids. And I know what a big sister looks like. And I'm not saying that she is, because I have no idea. But to me, this makes me think of a big sister. She welcomes them into the home. She seems to be in charge of the home. She seems to be always concerned about the things of the home. And then you see Mary. Mary's sitting at the Lord's feet, listening to him. Martha's making sure that Jesus is fed. She's making sure that he's comfortable. She's making sure that he's happy. She is a busy bee. And somebody has to do the logistics, don't they, Diane? Somebody has to take care of the logistics. And that was her. She can see her. She's working. She's busy. But she's listening to Jesus at the same time. And I'll tell you how come I know she's listening to Jesus. When we get further over in our study, we'll be able to see that she is listening. She may be working. She may be distracted. And Jesus knows this, but he also knows what her faith is. The things of Martha are important, but you see Mary, she's at home, the last thing on her mind. She wants to hear the words of the Lord. She wants to hear the good news. She wants to cling to every word that he speaks. And then the things of Martha are important. They really are. But Mary, we're going to be told, chooses the better part. Verse 40. But Martha was distracted with all her preparations. And she came up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the serving alone? Isn't that funny? You gonna let me do all the serving? Do you not care? Tell her to help me. Martha said, Lord, don't you care? Don't you care? Mary just sits here while I serve everybody. She's leaving this all up to me. Martha's listening, but she's distracted. Mary's neglect was due to what? What's her neglect really due to? Every word that Jesus speaks. That's what was the reason for her neglect. Verse 41 and 42. But the Lord answered and said to her, Martha, Martha. And I tell you what, I love this part. It's like we do. We use the same words. Josie, Josie. Nancy, Nancy. Billy, Billy. To me, that's what that's like, David. I don't have any idea if that's the context that he used that, but we use that a lot. Jeannie, Jeannie. Martha, Martha, you're worried and bothered about many things, but only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part which shall not be taken away from her. So Jesus says to Martha, 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 you're worried and bothered about a lot of things. You have a lot of things on your mind. You're being a good hostess. And I know that, in my opinion, that she's listening. But there was really how many things that were bottom line really necessary? One. Just one. Listening to Jesus. Clinging to his words. And so Mary has chosen the good part, the bread of life that can't be taken away. Now, many of us are like this. We get carried away. We get busy with this life. We get so busy we neglect assembling with the saints. We get so busy that we forget and we get carried away with the things of the world. And so on Sunday morning, everybody's here. And then Sunday night and Wednesday night, what happened? We get busy. We get carried away with the things that are in the world. And the Lord said, we can't neglect the good part, the words of life. So we see this family, don't we? We get a good picture. Lazarus is probably sitting at the table, eating at the table. Now turn to John chapter 11 with me. John chapter 11, beginning in verse 1. John chapter 11, beginning at verse number 1. In this chapter, we have the last great miracle of Jesus during his ministry, to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt to anyone that he was the Son of God. And it's a fitting climax to his earthly work. And guess who we're going to look at? Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. So verse 1. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And it was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. So the sisters sent word to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. So Lazarus is only named in the book of John, but Mary and Martha are named in the other Gospels. John identifies to us what Mary he's talking about, because how many Marys are there? I don't know. There's a lot of Marys. And so he's identifying to us which Mary it is. It's the one who anointed the Lord's feet and wiped his feet with her hair. Well, I'll mention this in a minute. So in Mary and Martha's distress, what do? They call on Jesus. They ask him for help. Is that what we do? Yeah. We get in trouble. We get in trials. We get all these things that affect us, and we call on God to help us. And they are, because they know he loves them. So, in their distress, they send out a message. What's the message say? He whom you love is sick. We all need the Lord. He loves us the same as he does them. Verse 4, but when Jesus heard this, he said, this sickness will not end in what? Death. He may die, and he does, but it doesn't end that way. Does it end that way for a faithful Christian? Huh? No, it doesn't. If we're a faithful Christian and we're living the best life we can, that we know how to do as a Christian, devoted to him, consecrated to him, always attempting to do his will in our life. After this life is over, we may set this shell down. Is that it? No. That's just the beginning. And I forgot where I was. Jesus. Jesus does this, he said, to bring glory to God, and that Jesus will be glorified. Verse 5 and 6. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he then stayed 2 days longer than the place where he was. Jesus is located beyond the Jordan. In John chapter 10 and verse 40, it tells us where Jesus was located. He's beyond the Jordan, where John the Baptist was first baptizing. And so he's there because the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem want to kill him. And so he takes the trip to Bethany. It's going to take at least 1 day. Lazarus is probably dead when he gets the message. So Jesus used the next 2 days to finish his work he was doing there. Verse 7 and 8. Then after this, he said to his disciples, let's go to Judea. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again? Are you crazy? The disciples are amazed. They're scared. They tried to stone you in Jerusalem. And then maybe he's thinking in his own mind, boy, I cannot believe this, that we're going to go back because Lazarus is sick. Verse 11, Jesus said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go that I may awaken him out of sleep. They don't understand the disciples in verses 12 through 13. He's asleep. He's going to recover. More than once, Jesus called death asleep, didn't he? Why did he call death asleep? One reason. I'm sorry, Nancy? It's not going to last that long. It's temporary. Many times he called that. He's got the key to every grave. He's going to open up every grave. So when Jesus told them plainly in verse 14, Lazarus is what? He's dead. And so Jesus said in verse 15, let's go to him. And then in verse 16, Thomas is thinking continually, wheels are rolling in his mind. He's thinking this over and over. He says, wait, we'll just go with you to die. Let's go with him to die. Verse 17. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been dead in the tomb how many days? 4 days. So in verse 19, people came to Mary and Martha to console them. The mourning period during these times usually lasted up to 30 days. They had professional mourners plus family and friends that are there to support Mary and Martha and pay the respects for the life of Lazarus. And so in verse 20, Martha, therefore, when she heard that Jesus was coming, went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha then said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Even now, watch this sentence now. I want you to watch this. Even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, what? God will hear you. Keep that in mind, that last sentence, because I want us to talk about that for just a second. But here we see Martha, she's springing into action. It's just like she does everything. She's a lady of action, and so she springs into action, and she goes out of the house, and she goes to meet the Lord. Now, this is really interesting verses here. You can see Martha has great what? Faith in Jesus. Got tremendous faith in Jesus. And she said what? If you'd have been here, my brother would not have died. She knew that, didn't she? And then we see something else. I don't know. I don't want to do speculating. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I like to think about this, and that's what I'm trying to get you to do, is think about this. I don't really think that she had any idea that he was going to bring him out of the grave that he's been in for 4 days, but yet she makes that statement. But now I know that if you, what does it say? I'm going to quote it. If you had been here, my brother would not. Even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will hear you. To me, she's still holding out for a ray of hope that he possibly can do something. That she knows he is the Son of God. Maybe it's nothing but just making a statement saying, even now, my brother, he's dead, and I want you to know that even now, I know whatever you ask God, he'll give you. I know who you are. You're the Son of God. Could be. Or it could be that she has so much faith that she's hoping with a ray, a little glimmer of hope that Jesus can do something. I don't know. I'll let you think about that. Verse 23. Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. Now right here, she thinks what? What does she think he's talking about? The resurrection, yeah. The resurrection on the last great day, the great getting up morning, they used to say. And so she says, I know he will rise again. Verse 24. Verse 25 and 26. Now watch this. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Don't we love these verses? I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he what? Even if he dies. Man, this is for us. And everyone who lives and believes in me will what? Never die. Never die. And he said to her, do you believe this? This is the wonderful promises that we have, that were given to her, that we have today. He is the resurrection and the life, even though we die. In fact, the truth is what? What's the truth? Even though we die, we'll have life everlasting. Yes. 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 That could be it. Yeah. Yeah. It could have. Yeah. Thank you, Helen. Yeah. We have that same problem, don't we? We get to thinking physical all the time, and sometimes we fail to look at things and to think about things spiritually. Verse 27. Martha says, yes, Lord, I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world. What great faith. There's the great confession right there. I know that you are the Son of God. You are the Christ. And even he who comes into the world. You're him. I know this. And after she said this, in verse 28, where did she go? I'm sorry? She went to Mary, didn't she? You can see her just running, heading back to Mary. The house is full of family and friends, and Martha reaches down, I suppose, and whispers in her ear and says, because she don't want everyone to hear. And she says, the teacher is here in verse 28. The teacher is here, and he's doing what? He's calling for you. So Mary quickly gets up. She went to where Jesus was. He's still in the same place he met Martha, verse 30. The people in the house, verse 31, said they see her leave. And they're thinking that she's going back to the tomb to mourn. So they're going to go with her. And so in verse 32, she went to Jesus and fell at his feet. She said the very same words Martha said. It got me to thinking. She said the very same words Martha said. If my brother had been here, you would not have died. I wonder, this is just old Timbo. I wonder, maybe if Mary and Martha may have even talked about this. Do you think they did? I'm sorry?
I'm sure they did.
being sisters. Their brothers dead for 4 days, and they during this period of time, they're clinging to each other, aren't they? They're holding on to the love they have between each other, and they're saying, boy, if Jesus would have been here, Lazarus wouldn't have died. We don't know, but we do know one thing. What do we know? For sure. They said the very same words. So she fell at his feet. And in verse 33, Jesus, we see him. He's deeply moved in spirit. He's troubled about what? What's he troubled about? He's the Savior of the world. There is not anything he cannot do. Why is he troubled and grieving in spirit? Why? Huh? Say that again. Yeah, he's human, isn't he? He's the human side of him. He's just pouring out his heart. He sees Mary and Martha and the grief they're going through. And he sees everybody upset and all that's going on. He's the human part of him. He's deeply moved in spirit, verse 33. He had to listen to Mary and Martha. Both said, if you'd have been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And we can see how touched he is. And then verse 34 and 35, Jesus said, where have you laid him? And they said, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Now what do we know about that verse, Jesus wept? You learned in Sunday school. What is it? Shortest verse there is. It may be a short verse, 2 words, but there's nothing more meaningful, there's nothing more moving than these 2 words, because it shows what his pure, genuine, human sadness. And also, as the Son of God, he's touched by them. His heart goes out to Mary and Martha. He's just lost a friend too. And Jesus said, or the people said, the Jews said in verse 36, see how they loved him. How he loved them. Loved him. I'll get it out in a minute. Verse 37. Some said, he opened up the eyes of the blind. Why can't he... What? Why can't he what? Why couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying? We ask that today, don't we? Do we not? When we get down, when our faith isn't as strong as it should be, why would God let this happen? We say those words. And so he said in verse 39, remove the stone. Martha's not so sure about this. Here she is again. She's not so sure about this, is she? She thinks it may be inappropriate to do that. Lazarus' body has been in there 4 days. He's decomposing. And what else? He smells bad after 4 days. It's what makes this miracle so amazing. Jesus told her, did I not say, in verse 40, if you believe, you'll see the glory of God. And so they removed the stone, verse 41, and Jesus prayed so everyone could hear. He does it for their benefit. I know you always hear me. So they would believe that he's the Son of God. Verse 43 and 44. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And the man who had died came forth, bound hand and foot with wrappings. I want you to notice that right there. He's bound hand and foot with wrappings. Now watch what else. And his face was wrapped around with a cloth, a face cloth. And Jesus said to them, unbind him and let him go. This man had been buried for 4 days. The people were astonished, to say the least. Can you imagine if you would have been there? to see the miracle, the power of God, just to be there and see that. It was proof beyond a shadow of a doubt that what? He is the Son of God. Wouldn't it have been something to see? But listen, on the other hand, we have an eyewitness account of this event telling us so that we can see through what kind of eyes? What kind of eyes? What kind of eyes are we look? Faith. The eyes of faith. It'd been something else to see this miraculous event. Now I want you to notice why I had you look at that, because he talks about the grave clothes. This is how people buried people back then. In John chapter 20, verse 3 through 8, let's go over there right quick. I'm going to do this right quick. John chapter 20, beginning at verse 3. I want you to see the wrappings. I want you to see the face cloth. John chapter 20, verse 3. So Peter and the other disciples went forth. Other disciple, that's John, went forth, and they were going to the tomb. The two of them were running together, and the other disciple ran ahead faster. In other words, John faster than Peter. Peter came to the faster than Peter, and came to the tomb first, and stooping and looking in, he saw the linen wrappings laying there. In verse 6, so Simon Peter also came, and following him, and entered the tomb, and when he saw the linen wrappings lying there, that's the bottom part that wrapped the body of Jesus, he just passed right through that, because they were sticky. That's how come they had to help Lazarus unbind him and let him go. They stuffed it all with spices and all these things that made a glue. And he couldn't possibly get out himself. Lazarus couldn't. And neither could Jesus. Oh, well, he could. But as a human, I'm saying, that's how they buried. Jesus passed right through it. No problem. Now look next. Verse 7. And the face cloth which had been on his head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Isn't that amazing? That's thought-provoking. Some people believed in this miraculous event. Did everybody? No. Some people ran back, went to the Pharisees, and told them what had taken place. This wondrous event. Verse 53. So from that day on, they planned together to do what? To kill Jesus. Then they guarded the temple in Jerusalem. Verse 57. And they gave orders that if anyone saw him or knew where he was, they were to report it so they could go seize him. This is what happens with a hardened heart. That you would see this and you would reject it. But you know something? There's not a dime's worth of difference between those people then and us today. They rejected it because it was just too much to give up, wasn't it, James? We reject it today because it's just too much to give up. John chapter 12. John chapter 12. Lazarus is alive after Jesus brought him back from the dead, and Mary anoints Jesus. It's almost time for Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem and Jesus' death on the cross. In verse 1 tells us it was 6 days before the Passover. And Jesus came to Bethany, and Lazarus is here. Verse 2 and 3, so they made him a supper there. I wonder who made it. Made him a supper there. And Martha was doing what? Serving. Here she is again. She was serving. But Lazarus was one of those reclining at the table with him. Mary then took a pound of very costly perfume of pure nard, a plant, and made it into a perfume, and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. I don't know about you, but I can almost smell it. Can't you? I can smell it. It's going throughout the room. What a thing she did. It's so easy to see this. In Matthew 26 and verse 7, if we look there, he tells us what the perfume was in. It was in an alabaster vial. That's what the perfume was in. And here's another deal on old Timbo. Lazarus is sitting at that table. Paul, you got any questions for Lazarus? He's sitting at that table. He was dead 4 days. Jesus brought him back. I don't know. This is just me. I'm full of questions. We don't have any indication that ever a question was asked. Not one question. None. Maybe God would not let that happen. Would not put that on their hearts. We don't know. We do know this. We don't know anything about Lazarus after this. It's the last thing we hear. Lazarus is eating with Jesus. Martha serving as usual. Mary brings out this expensive perfume, anoints Jesus' feet. Matthew 26 says she even anointed his head. And the fragrance fills the room. In verse 5 and 6, Judas speaks up. Boy, what is going on here? We need to sell this. We can get 300 denarii. One denarius was a day's wages. So we can get 300 denarii for this, and we can sell it and give it to the poor. But the problem was, Judas is a thief. He even pilfered out of their bag that they had their money they were keeping to do things with. Give to the poor. He even stole out of that. Do you think a dime's worth of that 300 denarii would have made it to the poor? No. It would not. And Jesus said in verse 7 and 8, leave her alone. She may keep it for my burial. Verse 9, large crowd comes outside the house. They're all gathered up outside the house. They came not only to see Jesus, but who else they come to see? Lazarus. They're drawing a big crowd. They want to see Jesus and they want to see Lazarus. Verse 10 and 11. But the chief priest planned to put Lazarus to death also, because on account of him, many Jews were going away and were believing in Jesus, because Lazarus was living proof, walking around, that Jesus Christ was the Son of God. And they needed to get rid of that. They needed to have that proof removed. That's their plan. Now turn to Matthew chapter 26 right quick, and let's look at verse 13, and then the class is over. Matthew 26, verse 13. Matthew 26 and verse 13. Truly I say to you, whenever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be spoken of in memory of who? of her. Now think about that. For the past 2,000 years, people have been teaching and preaching about this very events that we looked at. And we looked at how Martha did those things for the past 2,000 years up to when? Today. Isn't that amazing? What a tribute to her. What a memorial to her. Well, the study of Mary and Martha, Lazarus and Jesus. Quite an event, isn't it? You've been a great class today. I talked too much and you didn't talk enough.
And you've been to Jesus for the cleansing power. Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in His grace this hour? Are you